The next days would be the tale of fallen trees, and those trees would test my solo backpacking bravery in different ways, whether coming face to face with a defensive rattlesnake while crawling underneath a tree, or almost sliding down the mountain on a massive, smooth trunk. My limits would be pushed in different ways by the broken bark. I woke up camped further from water than I had planned, after waiting for my Amazon package at Paradise Valley Cafe the day before. Made a critical decision to skip the steep quarter-mile descent to the morning water source at Tunnel Spring, and felt good about that. Until later. The trail ahead offered some of the most breathtaking hiking I've ever experienced. I didn't see another human soul for over 2 days as I traversed the San Jacinto Range of rocky cliffs and green meadow saddles to the next peak. Along with some of the best views came the bugs. All the bugs. The east-facing ridge exposed me to the strengthening June sun, wind coming up from the warmed desert floor and flooding my lungs with dust. The thousands of feet in vertical gain, some so steep I was sliding backwards, made me gasp for air at times. The bugs swarmed my open mouth, my nose, so that every breath led to choking on flying critters and getting them stuck in places they should never be stuck. In one dramatic word, it was torturous. Tried to pace myself to make the most of my dwindling water, but I was slowing down. A lot. The heat and lack of water with that weight on my back were getting to me in ways I hadn't experienced before. I started to think about heading down Spittler Peak Trail and being done with this thing I was doing. The pain and distress were real. Could I really give up on getting to Idyllwild when I was so close? I stood at the trail junction and did some math. There was a Yeti cooler under the Junction sign that I ripped open desperately, but only empty water bottles and a hiker logbook were inside. The horror. Looked down from atop the mountainside. I was the same distance to water either way. Push. Continue. Summon whatever is left and get to water. Get to water. The steep half-mile down to Apache Spring was exhausting in new ways. Endless switchbacks and pushing through overgrown green. I knew that I had made a mistake to not stop at the morning water source after a night of dry camping. Learn from this, please, I begged my sweaty, dehydrated self. Dropped my pack and crept down the trail, finding a black box filled mysteriously from somewhere hidden in the poison ivy and poison oak surrounding the spring. A box filled with cold, delicious water. Does everyone know how amazing water is? Seriously, that water renewed my soul. Set up my tent quickly to escape from the yellow, brown, black mosquitoes and biting flies. Somehow, alone in the wilderness with not a soul in sight, I had enough service to video chat my mom, sisters, and nieces to revive my strength. I had scared myself a little there. I knew better than to risk it with water. Yet, I had. With views of the Palm Springs area and Coachella Valley below. The world was mine, nestled there against the mountain. A quiet, windswept world, a world of desert in the distance, green all around, and rocky gray peaks urging me forward. The following day immediately took me into an area known for its hazardous trail conditions when snow and ice are present. Passing across the San Jacintos on narrow walkways, surrounded by steep drop-offs, I marveled that my early season friends had done this section of trail back in March. A section of trail where PCT hikers have tragically lost their lives or gone missing, as recent as Trevor in 2020. Always remain humbled, I remind myself, still fresh from near dehydration the day before. But there was no doubt that this area gives enchanting vistas, the constant contrast of death and life in the sweeping remnants of fire and regrowth, green pines and black splinters, ghosts of forest past. I stared out at it all in wonder, in a state of worship, and always whispering into the solitary silence, "Dad? Dad, do you see this? Can you believe I'm doing this?" A smile through my warm tears, smearing the layers of dirt on my face. I don't feel him as closely anymore. Every week, every month, his presence fades, but he's always with me on trail. I may be a solo backpacker, but I always have someone to share the views with. Dad, I'm gonna make it into Idyllwild. I was surprised how happy I was to see the first person I came across. Then 2 more around Tahquitz Creek. Then the father and son heading up at Saddle Junction. The few miles down on Devil's Slide Trail were familiar, long, hot and dusty. I was a mix of giddy excitement and relief. At the bottom, I saw a group of thru hikers made up of familiar faces. There were those I had camped next to way back in Section A. Some I had chatted with around water sources or leapfrogged with at the start of Section B. It felt like a cheesy movie as they high-fived and hugged my smelly, dirty self. I waved as they started heading back up to the PCT. That feeling of fleeting camaraderie, as I was also saying a longer goodbye to that beautiful epic beast, the PCT. For now. A Forest Service volunteer gave me a ride to the campground. $5 for the hike and bike area, with access to restrooms and hot showers. Oh wow, a shower. It had been almost a week and a lot of sweating since my last shower. Filled up on food in town, and enjoyed chatting with other PCT hikers around our picnic table that night, swapping stories by headlamp, drinking all the water I could want, shuffling around camp with sore feet and a happy heart. My husband drove up to Idyllwild to pick me up, like the saint he is, and we began the journey back to sea level after breakfast. The road home passed by the range of mountains and hills that I had spent days hiking across. In a flash, we were back at Paradise Valley Cafe. And just like that, it was in the rearview mirror. Such a strange sensation to go backwards so quickly, to leave behind the places that had challenged my very self, that had given me such special purpose, that had made space for moments alone with the spirit of my father. I'm just so thankful and humbled and in awe. And I'll be back soon, very soon. Thank you so much for taking a walk with me. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more adventures ahead. See you next week.